August is Overdose Awareness Month, and in 2019, the CDC says that more than 70,000 people in the United States died from an overdose. The CDC also says Vanderbilt County is among counties across the country with a high rate of opioid prescriptions. Joining me right now to discuss the epidemic before the pandemic is family safety expert Rania Mankarios. Rania, thank you so much again for taking that time to talk with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Let's get right into it. Obviously, overdoses affect people of all ages and all walks of life. Do you see this becoming an issue, though, more so with teenagers?
Absolutely. And the reason being is because of the Uberization of drugs. And quite frankly, any one of our children, and it doesn't matter where you find yourself in this country, it doesn't matter what type of family home you have, all you need is a child with a gadget, and they have direct access to drug dealers, pill pushers, and more through the wonderful reach of social media to access pills and drugs over the online world. And these pills and drugs can be delivered to your front door without you ever knowing, for pennies on the dollar. So we see this as an issue that's increasing. We worry about synthetic opioids and opioids in general, but we also worry about pills that are laced with fentanyl and the shocking number of kids who are dying. This is an important topic that every parent across this country needs to be looking at.
And let's talk about that, Rania. What can parents really do, going forward, obviously, to talk to their kids about drugs?
It's important for parents to understand that there's a drug issue, and then there is the issue of kids just being curious and having access to what looks like somebody selling Percocet, Xanax, Adderall, all these kids who are not inherently drug users, whose parents think this conversation has nothing to do with me. Well, wait a minute, it does. Because across this country, kids are saying, oh, I can buy a Percocet. I've always wanted to try that, or a Xanax. For 15 cents, I'll go ahead and do that. And they don't realize that these pills are laced with synthetic opioids. They don't realize that this is like playing a game of Russian roulette. So we're asking families to have the conversation, whether or not they think their children are the typical drug user or not. This is a type of conversation that needs to be had. Kids are bored, kids are curious, and kids have access. It can be delivered, again, to your home without you ever knowing for less than $1 per pill. That's a problem.
And there are so many layers to this problem, Rania. And you mentioned fentanyl moments ago. Here in the tri-state, in fact, we've seen, obviously, those counterfeit pills that, look a lot like fentanyl, and they look like the real deal, but they're oftentimes, as you mentioned, laced with deadly fentanyl. How does this happen?
These pills are made overseas or in someone's garage. It's not like they're FDA approved. They're made in controlled, environments. They're made by dealers, people who don't care about what happens to the end user, the consumer. At best, they're hoping that they get somebody addicted and have a client for life. At worst, someone's going to die. They're going to move on to the next person. These are the conversations we have to be having with our kids. You don't know what you're buying. We really do call it Russian roulette. We know that a random sampling of pills across this country in 2019, pre-pandemic, almost 30% were laced with a deadly dose of fentanyl. What is a deadly dose of fentanyl? 2 milligrams. It's 2 little pieces of salt that can cost a child their life. So these are really important conversations. You'll never know when you get the pill that you'll never know that it was laced. It doesn't look different. There's no identifying. It doesn't smell different. It's something you ingest and then you pay the price. It's also important that parents across this country have Narcan nasal spray because it reverses the effect of an opioid overdose almost instantly. And how sad is it that we need to be telling parents to have that? But it's an important point.
And Rania, on that point, I wanted to talk to you next, obviously, about some of that harm prevention. There are kits you can use, as you just mentioned, maybe to test some of those drugs. And you just talked about Narcan that reverses those opioid overdoses. Do you think that these are helpful in the long run then?
Absolutely. Until we get a hold of the outpouring, the over inundation of opioids and synthetic opioids into our communities, until we can make sure that drug dealers can't sell them so easily online, which is actually, it is happening. It is a fact. We need to be looking at how we can control and protect our children. We have to be both offensive and defensive advocates for our kids. So having the conversation is critical. Letting our kids know that we know that they can get access to this so easily online, that's critical. Doing what we can. We're proud of the state of Texas for passing really strict laws on the sale of synthetic opioids, especially those laced with fentanyl, but then also having medicine in the home like Narcan nasal spray that you can easily get that will save a child's life. I hope you never have to use it, but you will never, ever, ever regret having it.
And a lot of question on people's minds, Rania. Obviously, if someone is having an overdose, what should you do? What do those first steps look like?
Immediately issue the Narcan nasal spray, call 911, get emergency treatment again immediately. These are moments, less than seconds, that can save the life of a child. And it's a situation we hope a parent never, ever, ever has to endure. We've talked to parents who have walked into a child's bedroom, seeing them aspirated on their own vomit, laying there in the fetal position, having lost, the battle. They've fentanyl poisoning is what it is, and it will kill you very quickly. So we're really urging families to have every tool that they can to keep their kids safe.
And just such devastating effects, Rania. I wanted to get your take finally, maybe to wrap it up. If someone you know really is having a drug abuse problem, how can you help them?
Absolutely. It depends where you are in this country, but there are hotlines, there are nonprofit organizations, there are medical groups that will step in and help you. The point is the community needs to come together, rally behind these users, and do whatever we can. Understanding there's a biological effect to this, a physiological effect to this, an emotional impact of drug use. We've got to do whatever we can to help those users. But we also have to understand that there are kids dying from synthetic opioids, again, who are not drug users. They're not looking for a high. They're not looking for drugs. They're just buying pills online, thinking it's, as I said, Percocet, Adderall, Xanax, or any of the common pills that people know are out there. So there's many different layers to the conversation. And again, we are thankful to you for having it.
Yeah, and Rania Menkerios, it is always great to see you. We really do appreciate your time again tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right.